Om, 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 Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanao Bhunatu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Om Namah Shri Shankarananda Gurupadambu Janmane Savila Mohan Graha Grasaika Karmane. Hari Om. So welcome. This problem on YouTube is now no more. I'm able to see my face clearly. Unlike the last 2 days when we were discussing about Prarabdha Karma, I had to go through my Prarabdha, but when I saw many other live channels like this yesterday, I realized that it was a common problem on YouTube. Other people also had this, and today it has been rectified. So, we are looking into this part of what is the Guru is continuing Tadishtam Eshtavyam Maya Mayatvasya Samikshanat Ichannapyapi Agnavat Nechet Kim Ichan Itihi Shrutam Na Ichet. So when we say Kim Ichan, desiring what? Even though desiring, the desires of a wise man are not binding, like those of an ignorant man. And he says that if you want to meditate, then that is good. It is acceptable, since it is seen very well that when controlling the mind through meditation, it is essential to know the illusory nature of the world. But controlling the mind is not the way to know the truth. To know the truth, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Listening to the words of the Master, contemplating on those words through the help of the Shrutis, the Upanishads, and meditating on those alone can help in realizing the self and not just quietening the mind. So we can give this example of, you say a person is sleeping only when he has gone to sleep, and not just because his sense organs are quiet, eyes are closed, body is still in a lying down position. You cannot say a person is sleeping. The person has to enter into that state of sleep. In the same way, it is not enough if we just close the eyes and quieten the mind in meditation. The person has to enter into the state of realization. So that is the way. With the right understanding, the apparent contradiction seen with regard to self-knowledge gets resolved. This is illustrated in the following verse. What is the contradiction regarding self-knowledge? Kimichan, a person who has realized the self, what will he desire? Kimichan means there is no desire, basically. Rago lingama bodhasya santu ragadayo budhe iti shastradvayam sartham evam satya virodhataha. Ragaha lingam. Raga or attachment to some thought, some feeling, some emotion is the sign of abodhasya, the one who does not have the knowledge. An ignorant person, santu, there be ragadayaha budhe iti, wise man. So when you say the sign of an ignorant man is attachment, Then the Vedas also say even wise people can have desires. Both are Vaidika statements. Shastra Dvayam, Sartham. Both are meaningful in their own respect. Evam Sati, this being the case, Avirodhataha. They are not contradictory. Why are they not contradictory? Attachment is a sign of ignorance. So if a person is attached, that person is an ignorant person. But you say for a wise man who has known the self, he can also have desires. Desires is nothing but attachment. What is the contradiction in this? Attachment is a sign of ignorance. Sureshwaracharya says, Rago lingam abodhasya chitta vyayama bhumisho kutasad tasya yasya nikotare taroho. From Naishkarmya Siddhi. Attachment is the ignorance that exercises in the gymnasium of the mind. The mind is a gym and attachment is training itself against the equipment in the mind. How can a tree with fire burning within its trunk have thick green foliage? So the person with attachment cannot have the beautiful foliage of self-realization because the attachment is burning up from within. It is a characteristic of an ignorant man. Now, attachment is also seen in a wise man. We do see desires and attachment in wise men also. This seems totally contradictory. As already discussed, his desires are due to the fructifying karmas and like roasted seeds, they do not bind him. What can be faulted in a capable or wise man? If a wise man has a desire, it is the resultant of past karma that is still there. The engine is running, and so whatever is manifesting is coming out. There is, but he is capable of handling it because that desire is not going to destabilize this person. That desire is not going to make him indulge in further desires. Whatever the great do, think, or feel, it does not bind them because the same qualities like anger, desire, attachment can destroy the ignorant. Sureshwaracharya ji also says the person who understands the scriptures well realizes the truth. Thereafter, attachments can do him no harm. Shastrarthasya samaptavan mukti syat तावत् तावतापि ते रागादयः सन्तु कामं न तद् भावो अपराध्यते. So it is not going to give him any trouble because he has got that strength to handle it and he is aware that it is an expression of the impending desires that are there left over in the mind, and he does not get excited about it or suffer because of it. Now the next verse is Kasya Kamaya. All this time we saw about Kimichan. Desiring what? Desiring what means this person Atmanam Chet Vijaniyat, the one who has realized that I am that supreme self, I am that consciousness, I am not the world I see, I am not this body, mind and intellect, I am consciousness. The person has realized that. Now, such a person for whose Kimichan we saw, he also realized that the world is an illusion. From a modern day scientific point of view, how do we explain the illusion of the world? By bringing down everything into its particulate state, its actual existence in a particulate matter, subatomic particles and quarks floating in empty space. That is what we see as the world. We are seeing the world because the same particles of matter, subatomic particles, quarks, protons, neutrons, electrons, have formed cells in this body, and the cells, through the cells, the light of consciousness or awareness is looking through the tightly packed cells in the body and experiencing the world through the tightly packed cells. And because that life force is vibrating through this tightly packed, celled body, the vibration is matching with the vibrations of the tightly packed matter on earth, and so we are locking with matter and knowing the existence of matter. If we are not tightly packed in cells in the body, then we will also not perceive this tightly packed objective world outside. So that is Kim. So when the wise man, like how for the to know that the sky to be blue, we not blue, we just know that the sky is not blue. We have experienced it when we go in a flight, and we have also learned in science the sky is not blue. It is because of the refraction of sunlight and the infinite nature of the sky, the endless nature of the sky. Anything of an endless nature is blue in color, like the ocean, the sky, and all that. So that is the reason it is blue, and that blue is also only an appearance. Even though we see blue color, even though we know that the sky is colorless, we are still seeing the blue sky. It does not stop us from seeing the knowledge does not stop us from seeing the blue sky. We are seeing the blue sky, but we still know the sky is colorless. In the same way, the knowledge that the world is only an illusion does not stop us from seeing a physical world and participating in that physical world also. So Kim Ichan, there is no object for enjoyment in the world. Kasya Kamaya, it is talking about there is no enjoyer in the first place. There is only consciousness, and that consciousness is the same everywhere. There is no limited consciousness in this place called this human being. So for whose sake is he going to enjoy? Kasya Kamaya. Jaganmithyatva satvat swatma sangatvasya samikshanat kasya kamayeti vacho bhoktra bhava vivakshaya. Jagan mithyatvavat. Just like this whole world is an illusion. Mithya vat swatma asangatvasya, of the associationless of one's own self. I am consciousness, and consciousness is not associated with anything in this world. This world is an illusion. There is no attachment to that illusion on the part of consciousness, which is I, the self. Samikshanat. This is very well seen now. Kasya Kamaya. For whose sake, for whom should he desire now? This person, iti vachaha, the statement, what does it show? Bhoktru abhava vivakshaya. It is just revealing that there is no bhokta, there is no enjoyer in this place. There is no somebody to get excited about something. There is no excitement. It's a very normal, natural, calm state of being. In this person who has realized the self, there is absolutely no excitement. And so, it means that there is no enjoyer in that place. There is no individual person in that place. There is only a state of being. There is only the state of expansive consciousness. Like space is there, consciousness is there. It is there in this place, and it does not have any name, form, or qualities to get attached. Realization is to see one's own true nature as the infinite self and the world as an illusion. Realization has two components to it. I see myself as the infinite self, and by the very fact that I am seeing myself as a self, there is nothing else besides me, and this whole world is only an illusion. Desiring what? Kimichan refers to the understanding of the falsity of the world. When we know that the world is an illusion, there are no desires, or they are illusory and not binding. Who is the enjoyer, the experience of the world, experiencer of the world? For whose sake do we seek enjoyment? Patijayadikam sarvam तत्तद् भोगाय नेच्छति किं त्वात्मभोगार्थमिति उद्घोषितं बहु pati jayadikam. The husband, wife, sarvam tattat bhogaya, for the sake of happiness of those persons or objects, na ichchati, desires, kintu atma bhogartam, for one's own enjoyment, iti shrutau, in the Veda, udghoshitam, it is proclaimed, bahu, very loudly. The Vedas here mean the Upanishads. Whatever we desire, it is not for that object, but it is for the self. It is very, very interesting. Though we don't think about it much, it's a very simple statement. If I desire a cup of coffee, I desire a cup of coffee not to make the coffee happy, but to make me happy. If I desire something, if somebody desires getting married to a man, that desire is not to make that man happy, but to make this individual happy who is desiring. Suppose for everybody, whether it's a mother, the father, husband, wife, brother, sister, son, daughter, grandchildren, all groups of people, whatever they want, whatever they desire, if the grandchild loves the grandfather, it is not for the sake of the grandfather, but it is for the sake of the grandchild, because that love is doing something convenient or happy for this person. The moment the grandfather refuses to listen, then the love will be lost in that place. So it is very strange. This is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Sage Yagna and his Maitreyi, they are having a discussion, and he tells his wife, Maitreyi, the husband is not dear for his own sake, but for the sake of oneself. That is, the wife likes the husband, not for the sake of the husband, but for the sake of her own self. The wife is not dear for her own sake, but for the sake of the husband. So in this whole world, everything is dear only for the sake of that individual and not for the object that we see. Nava are sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Nava are sarvasya kamaya, for all the objects, everything is not there. All the objects are existing for the individual. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Individual is here consciousness, not body, mind and intellect. The consciousness. Everything is there for consciousness to realize itself. Then what is the difference between a wise man and an ignorant man? Both are having desires. So why should I work very hard and become wise, and then also I am allowed to have desires? I can just have desires and be ignorant. For the ignorant, the body itself is a self. So self-gratification, the idea of the self, is a difference between the wise man and the ignorant man. So everything is for the self only. There is no doubt about it. Every object of desire is meant not for itself, but for the self. So what is the difference between the wise man and the ignorant man? For the wise man, it is in the notion of the self, in the idea of the self, that the wise man is wise and the ignorant man remains ignorant. The wise man realizes the self as consciousness. Wherever there is awareness, that person is, the wise person is. For example, I am aware of the thoughts in my mind. So the wise person is here. Consciousness is here in me. In somebody else also, they are aware of the thoughts in their mind. The conscious person is there also in that somebody. So anywhere in the world, anywhere in this universe, wherever there are beings, objects and situations, the wise man is there because he is that consciousness which is present everywhere. Whereas the ignorant man, for him, I refers to this body. That much is the only difference. And because the I refers to the body, everything Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati means everything is to serve this body, mind, and intellect. I get this, I do that, I eat this, I don't do this. Everything is to keep the body, mind, and intellect happy. So, who is the enjoyer? What is that verse? Kasya kamaya, for whose sake is the desire? Kim kutastas chidabhaso tava kim vo bhayatmakah bhokta tatra na kutastho asangatva asangatva bhoktratam vrajet. Kim कूटस्थस चिदाभासो अथवा किम वा उभयात्मकः. Is it this kutastha, the anvil or the substratum called consciousness, immutable consciousness, which is very steady and not moving? Is that the enjoyer, or the reflection of consciousness in the intellect? Is that the enjoyer? The reflection of consciousness in the intellect is like the reflection of the sun in water. In the same way, the intellect is made up of this stuff of the subtle body, the prana. Is that the reflection of consciousness in that? Is it the enjoyer, or is consciousness the enjoyer, or both? Both of them together are the enjoyer. Who is the doer and enjoyer of actions? Is it the immutable consciousness, or the reflected consciousness, or a union of the two? In this case, the immutable consciousness is not attached. It cannot be the enjoyer. It cannot attain the state of enjoyership. So in consciousness, there is only awareness of enjoyment. There is no experience of enjoyment. There is no awareness of enjoyment also. There is just awareness. The mind, the intellect is what which identifies it as enjoyment. In consciousness, there is only awareness. Sunlight only lightens up everything. Sunlight does not say, this is a lake, this is Ganga, this is Kuam river, this is the ocean. It does not do, or this is a puddle of water. Sunlight does not differentiate. It is just illumining everything. The differentiation is done only by the intellect. The changeless self, Kutastha, is totally untouched, beyond the mind and the senses, free from time, space, and objects, the witness of all. The changeless self, it is not the enjoyer of objects. Then, who is the enjoyer? If the Kutastha or the consciousness is not the enjoyer, then is it that reflection of consciousness in the intellect? Sukha dukkha bhimanakyo vikaro bhoga uchyate kutastascha vikari chet etanna vyahatam katham. Kutastha, or that anvil, or the unmoving substratum called consciousness, is, if you say, if that is mutable, if it can change, then it is self-contradictory. So since it is not mutable, so what is bhoga? What is enjoyership? Enjoyership is changeability between identification with joy and sorrow. The one who enjoys is identifying with joy and then identifying with sorrow. It is, we are not just witnessing joy, witnessing sorrow, but we are identifying with that. What is the difference between witnessing and identifying? Witnessing is just as you walk on the road, or as you walk in the mall, just passing by and looking at all the things. That is just witness. But when we zero in on one thing, we say, I like this, I want this, and then take that object, buy it, and bring it with us home, then we have identified with it. So that's a difference. Sukha dukkha abhimana akyaha. Abhimana is desiring something, loving something, identifying with something. Vikaraha, this is modification, and this is called bhoga or enjoyment. Whether it is sukha or whether it is dukkha, I am enjoying it, I am identifying myself with it. That is bhoga. Kutastascha vikari chet etanna vyahatam katham. So if you see Kutastha is the enjoyer, then Kutastha becomes mutable, then it is very self-contradictory. Because the very idea of Kutastha is that which is immutable consciousness. So it cannot be the enjoyer because Kutastha is immutable, it does not change. And to be an enjoyer, to be the one who enjoys something, they have to identify with either joy or either sorrow. Then can the reflection of consciousness in the intellect be the enjoyer? The next question is there. We have to now pin that who is this enjoyer? When you say, I am enjoying or I am suffering, who is that I which is enjoying or suffering? We should know. Otherwise, we will be blindly going through the process of enjoyment and suffering in this life and losing a lot of our energy, losing a lot of our resources because of that. Vikari buddhyadhinatvat abhaso vikrutavapi niradhisthana vibhrantihi kevalo nahi tishtati. Vikari buddhi adhinatvat. This reflection of consciousness, it is depending on the changing of the intellect. Abhasaha, reflection of consciousness. Vikrutau, its modification is not because of itself, but because of the changes in the intellect. Even then, api, niradhisthana vibhrantihi. There can be no illusion without a substratum. Even if you want to see the movie, the light, the moving images of light and shade and color in the movie, we need the substratum of the screen to see that image. Without a substratum, seeing the illusion is not possible. Kevala nahi tishtati. The reflection of consciousness undergoes modification since it depends on the ever-changing intellect. It being indeed an illusion cannot exist alone without a substratum. So the reflection of consciousness is also not the enjoyer because the reflection of consciousness is only an illusion. It is only a play of colors. Consciousness is like that light beaming from the theater, from the top of the movie theater, on the top deck where the beaming of the movie is happening. Consciousness is that light. Reflection of consciousness is that which hits the movie screen and comes out as images, multiple images. The reflection of consciousness has got no real basis of existence without the light beaming from top. So the reflection of consciousness is not the enjoyer. The reflection of consciousness in us, in the intellect, which enlivens the intellect, is not the enjoyer also. Then who is the enjoyer? The third possibility, is it a combination of these two? That must be the enjoyer? That's a question. Can the combination of this consciousness and the reflection of consciousness in the intellect be the enjoyer? Ubhayatmaka evato loke bhokta nigadyate tadrigatmanamarabhya kutasthasheshitashutau. Ubhayatmakaha, combination of the immutable consciousness and the reflected consciousness. Eva ataha loke in this world, or in common parlance, bhokta, the enjoyer, nigadyate, it is considered. Tadrik, such a type, atmanam, self, arabhya, beginning with kutastaha, sheshtaha remain, shrutau in the Vedas. In common parlance, therefore, the combination of the immutable consciousness and the reflected consciousness only is considered to be the enjoyer. But the Veda begins with this combination as the enjoyer and concludes that the immutable consciousness alone remains, and that there cannot be any enjoyer. The Vedas begin with the statement that consciousness and the reflected consciousness are together the enjoyer, but when they conclude, they say only the immutable consciousness is and nothing else remains, and there is no enjoyer at all. Why does the immutable self reflect in the mind and not in the body? Both mind and body are made up of matter. The mind is more subtle in nature, the body is gross in nature. So, consciousness reflects in the body as existence. That is, life principle is there. It is, we say, the body is, the stone is, or the table is, the paper is, the cardboard is, we say. So, that is only consciousness. That is only the existence principle in material objects. But in the mind, consciousness reflects as, this immutable self reflects as consciousness. The sun reflects in the water only and not the bucket that holds the water. The reflection of the sun is seen shimmering in the water only. In the bucket that holds the water, the sun's light generally illumines the bucket, that's all. It does not reflect as the sun in the bucket as much as it does in the water. Coal and diamond are both made of carbon only because of the peculiar placement of the carbon molecules in the diamond, the translucence of it reflects the light, whereas the coal is very condensed in its nature and the molecules are peculiarly placed, and so it does not reflect light. In the same way, the mind, the intellect, reflects the light of consciousness, whereas the body does not reflect. Is this combination the enjoyer? In this chapter itself, the meaning of the word Purusha was determined. The reflection of consciousness, self, in the intellect, having the infinite self as its substratum. The reflection of consciousness in the intellect with the substratum of consciousness is the Purusha. But is such a combination possible? The self is of the nature of existence. Anything other than it will become non-existent. So what is the nature of the reflection of consciousness in the intellect? It is immutable. Is it immutable like the self? No. It is changing and therefore it is non-existent. If it's considered as the nature of existence, it will not be called a combination. It does not seem to be existence or non-existence since it is experienced. Then it must be an illusion, mithya. But an illusion has got no real existence. Due to a fault in my eye, I see two moons. Today, I think for a long time, I was looking at this book inside the room, and when I went out into the balcony, I saw the sky. Venus is appearing too. All the stars are appearing double. There is one star close to me and one star far away. The faraway star is the real star, and the star that is appearing close to me is a reflection of consciousness. So, it is a dual. It is because of the fault in my eye, and it doesn't mean that today two stars have come up, two Venuses have come up, and two moons have come up in the sky. It is just a fault in my eye. The illusory vision does not make the second moon real. The reflection of consciousness is illusory, and therefore the immutable self, the substratum alone remains. There is no second at all. So this is the Inquiry into our real nature. Ramana Maharishi says, Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha ayipatatyaham nija vicharanam. The previous verse, vrittayastvaham vrittimashritaha vrittayormano vidyaham manaham ahamayam kuto bhavati chilvataha ayipatatyaham nija vicharanam. Vrittayastu aham vrittimashritaha. All the vrittis or movements of the mind, the waves in the mind, are resting on the aham vritti. What is that aham vritti? I thought. I am the body thought. So this aham vritti is I am the body thought. In this I am the body thought, there are many thoughts that are erupting like waves in the ocean. Vrittayastvaham vrittim ashrit vrittayastu aham vrittim ashritaha. This aham itself is a wave in the large ocean of consciousness. This I thought itself is one wave. In that one wave, we see many sparkles of water, sparkles of waves, and whirlpools, and many things exist in that one wave. Ahamaya vrittimashritaha vrittayastvaham vrittimashrita vrittayor mano vidhi aham manaha. What is the vritti? The vritti is called the mind. And what is the mind? The I thought, I am the body thought is the mind. Now, this aham, I am, this I, this, kutaha bhavati, how can it be? Where is it? Chinvataha, if a person is contemplating, I, oh my dear, so easy to make the aham fall, to make that false I go away. What should we do? We should just contemplate on that. From where is this coming? From where is this false? From where is this I am the body thought coming? Contemplate on that. When you contemplate on that, when you contemplate what happens, you are connecting with awareness. Contemplation is nothing but being quiet and focusing keenly on that thought. Where is this I? Who is this I? Which is calling the body as I. Who is this person? Let me watch. You watch like this. The very power of that watching quietly, what happens? This I will run away or it will fall. It is like this I is like that ice block. It is sitting inside. This ice block of life, ignorant ice block of life, is sitting inside and constantly saying, I, meaning the body. I am the body. We don't say I am the body, but we say I am tall, I am dark, I am thin, I am fair, I am short, I have gray hair. And then we also say other features of the body. I feel hungry, I feel thirsty. Then I like this, I don't like this, I am intelligent, I am stupid. Don't know the truth, I know the truth. Everything we say with relevance to the body only. Body and the other equipment that are there in the presence of the body. So aham ayam kuto bhavati. When you contemplate on this, contemplation is a powerful source energy. We are connecting with that powerful source energy and being with that. We are in touch with that. When we are in touch with that, whatever we pay attention to, that expands in our life. When we pay attention to source energy, that source energy becomes so powerful in us that this false thought, I thought, just disappears, dissolves, runs away. It has got nothing to do in our presence anymore. Atma katama ityukte Yagnavalkyo vibodhayan Vijnanamayam arabhya asangantam Paryasheshayat Atma Katama. What is the nature of the Atma? Iti Ukte. If asked, Yagnavalkyaha Vibodhayan. Yagnavalkya teaches Vijnanamayam, the intellect, Arabhya, starting with the Vijnanamaya Kosha, Asangam Tat, that which is unattached, Paryasheshat, and reaches, it ends there. Starting from the Vijnanamaya Kosha, where it ends, Atma is not a one individual thing. It is a spectrum. It's a spectrum that travels from the thought, from the Vijnanamaya Kosha to the self, where it reaches, that is the Atma. What is the nature of the self? When King Janaka asked Yagnavalkya, he begins his teaching from the intellect, he says this is a self, and then pointing out to the inadequacy to be the self, because the intellect is constantly changing. One moment there is one thought, next moment there is another thought. Even if it is one thought or one experience, that one experience keeps changing all the time. So the intellect is not the Atma. And finally, he ends with that immutable consciousness. Everything, it ends there, and that is the self. Who is the self? The sage replies, one who is the consciousness reflected in the intellect is the self. Remaining the same, it roams both in the waking and dream states as though thinking and moving. Thereafter, negating all conditioning, he says, the self is indeed unattached to any conditioning. Being unattached, the self is neither the doer nor the enjoyer, and vice versa. The self is beyond all conditionings. There is no conditioning, there is no attachment to the self. And the Guru is now referring from the Aitreya Upanishad of the Rig Veda. Koyamatmetya ve eva madau sarvatratma vicharatah ubhayatmakamarabhya kutastashyate shrutau. In the Veda, sheshyate, it remains Kaha ayam atma iti evam adau. Beginning from what is this self? Sarvatra, everywhere, atma vicharataha. While inquiring into the nature of the self, ubhaya atmakam, a combination of both the immutable consciousness and the reflexive consciousness, arabhya, starting with kutastaha, the immutable consciousness. It ends with immutable consciousness. Who is the self? While inquiring into the nature of the self, the Aitreya Upanishad and other texts begin with like the earlier beginning was with the intellect, but in the Aitreya Upanishad it begins with the immutable reflection of consciousness and ends in the immutable consciousness. So here nothing, it is just a play of the words. Consciousness is that awareness, is that minutest existence of light in this universe, the light of awareness, that is consciousness. Reflection of consciousness is, there is a thought in my mind, and that thought is illumined by this consciousness. In that illumination, consciousness is reflected. So that is reflection of consciousness. The seekers of truth in their discussion inquired, who is the self that we worship? What is its nature? They initially arrived at the conclusion that by which we see, hear, smell, taste, speak, and that which takes the form of our thoughts like understanding, memory, is the self. The self takes up the form of our thoughts. The self enables the sense organs to do their work. However, on further inquiry, they realize that the self, consciousness, is the infinite truth. Prajnanam Brahma, the Aitreya Upanishad. That consciousness is Brahman. How do the real and unreal combine and create the so-called enjoyer? How can the immutable consciousness and the reflection of consciousness combine to create the state of an enjoyer. Kutastha satyatam swasmin adhyasyatma vivekatah tatvikim bhoktratam matva nakadachit jihasati. Kutastha satyatam, the reality of the immutable consciousness. Kutastha is the anvil, the substratum, immutable consciousness. Swasmin, on oneself. Adhyasya, superimposing on itself. Atma avivekataha. How does the superimposition happen? Because of lack of enquiry. There is no discrimination of what is the self and what is not the self. In that only this reflection of consciousness happens. Tatvikim bhoktrutam, sense of enjoyership, matva, because of that ignorance, seeing the reflection of consciousness, the person becomes a bhokta. Matva na kadachit, never jihasati, doesn't desire to give up the enjoyments. In Gurudev calls this illusory combination an unholy wedlock. It is due to mutual superimposition of the knowing aspect of the self with the changing aspect of the thoughts that create a fictitious individuality which appears very real. The doership, enjoyership, and enjoyment also seem very real, and therefore the individual does not give up these false notions and holds on to them for his very existence. Every action is done under this false notion alone. It is so subtle that it becomes difficult to even trace it. It sometimes even takes on the forms of a non doer. A person says, I did not do anything. That is the ego speaking. Ego is this false personality. I did not do anything, and he says it is not done by me, it is only God's will that it got done. And then he is also congratulating himself for doing something. The individual also feels insulted when not congratulated by others. So whether it is whether it is a real manner insisting that I didn't do or bragging that I did, it is the false self that is doing. And what is this false self? Consciousness is true, immutable. Then there is thought. In the thought, there is reflection of consciousness. Suddenly one entity springs up. Like there is this bucket and there is water and there is sunlight. Sun is above. The sun's reflection is there. Suddenly it looks like an entity. Actually, there is no entity called the sun inside the water. It is only the reflection of the sun. But if that entity said, I am there, I am only giving water, I am only giving light to this bucket, I am only giving joy to people who see me, I am the sun. If it starts saying, then it is only a joke, because there is no entity like that. The entity is happening only because of the combination of the sun, the bucket, and the water. In the same way, this reflection of consciousness is an entity that happens only because of the presence of consciousness and the mind or the prana in that body. The reflection of consciousness or that individuality comes up. And now this individual being claims to be the doer and the enjoyer. That is the biggest joke of all, because there is no such person there. There is no person. There is only Swami. There is no Asami. Asami and Swami are these Tamil words. Swami is master. Asami is a cheat. The cheat is not there actually. Who is that cheat? That reflection of consciousness in the thought. The reflection, that is the problematic thing. And so when we inquire into that, when we really make an inquiry, okay, the sun is there, the water is here, now remove the water from the bucket, let's see if the sun is there. There is no sun there, there is only a general reflection of light everywhere in the bucket. Then where did that sun go? The water was there, the sun appeared as if it was there. When the water is not there, there is nothing there to reflect the light of the sun and claim an individuality in that place. So that individuality is the false self that we cannot do away with it. Like the world, we can only understand the world is an illusion. We cannot do away with the world. In the same way, we can only understand that this false self is an illusion. We cannot push it away because consciousness is there, the body is there, life is there. In that, this gets reflected naturally, normally, it is there. Om Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu, Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkhabhag Bhavet, Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasorma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Boliye Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. Har Namah Parvati Pataye. Hara Hara Mahadeva. Hari Om.